What is the value of a cup of coffee? We just heard about $5 for a nice latte these days. But should that cup of coffee be the price of admission for big business to be in your operating room or the operating room of your loved one? Should that cup of coffee be the deciding factor over what tool or technology your surgeon chooses to treat the disease that landed you in that operating room? Over the next several minutes, I'd like to share just a few stories that illustrate how currently the worlds of business, medicine, and technology intersect at that cup of coffee. Okay, picture the following. You're a busy, tired surgical resident, putting in about 80 hours of work a week. On an average day, a sales rep for a device company your specialty uses spots you in the hospital and offers to buy you a cup of coffee. You first met the sales rep during surgery with one of your main surgical mentors. Not only was the sales rep in the operating room, they were the only other person talking other than the head surgeon. So as you're sitting there chatting with the sales rep, sipping on that sweet source of caffeine, the sales rep casually offers, "Hey, I'd love to send you to a conference hosted by our company where you're going to learn from experts in the field about how to use our device so you can be successful with it in your future as a surgeon. And don't worry, all the expenses will be covered by our company, and there'll be some pretty fun dinners too." Anyone feeling a bit icky yet, as my son likes to say? Try this one on for size. Now, you're a busy surgeon. In an average day, you're being asked to operate, see patients in clinic, fill out electronic medical records, and fight with insurance companies. And in this chaos that is modern medicine, a sales rep spots you and offers to buy you a cup of coffee. Not much to it. They know your order, and they'll bring it right back so you can keep moving along with your day. When they bring the coffee back, they ask all about your family and kids by name, having memorized that information from your handoff dinner. That was a dinner sponsored by their company, where the sales rep from the town you trained in introduced you to the sales rep in your new town, so you'd know who to call on just in case. After exchanging some pleasantries, the sales rep casually offers, "Hey doc, mind if I hang around for your next surgery, just in case I can help in any way?" This happened all the time during your training, so it seemed only natural. Fast forward. Now you're in the middle of surgery, and on the screens in front of you, you see pictures of disease that can be treated in a variety of ways. One of those ways is with a device sold by that very rep who just bought you that seemingly innocent cup of coffee. You're both staring at the screen, and the sales rep casually asks, "So doc, what do you think?" As you all digest these scenarios, which have personally happened to me multiple times, I'd like to share my disclosures so we can be on a level playing field moving forward. Disclosure 1, I am the son of a salesman. Not just a salesman. My father was the top salesman in his sector of finance for over a decade. He taught me many lessons as a result of his job, but the one thing that always stuck with me was the idea that salespeople rarely just sell a product. They usually, and mainly, sell themselves. Disclosure 2, I practice in a field of surgery that has arguably undergone one of the greatest revolutions in how we provide care to our patients, vascular surgery, or the surgery of major blood vessels in the body. It did so by marrying medicine with technology. We literally went from prying open body cavities to bypass broken or clogged blood vessels to poking a hole in your wrist or your groin to leave a stent behind to try and do the same job. It was this marriage of medicine and technology that actually pushed me to the field. And it was the interplay between business, medicine, and technology that drove me to earn my MBA so I could better understand the business side of this transaction. And disclosure number 3, I married a doctor who specializes in medical ethics. And it's my relationship with this particular ethicist that brings us here today. My journey to this stage started several years ago when I was a busy, tired surgical resident and got invited by a sales rep to a dinner hosted by their company. As I was home preparing for my evening out, my wife casually asked what I was doing. I excitedly explained my need for a free night out with great food and wine I'd never buy for myself. You know, the stuff that comes out of a bottle and not a box. And as I glanced back at my wife, hoping to see my excitement mirrored in her gaze, all I got was a look. Anyone who's married should know the look. So as I prepared for this mental debate that was about to take place, my wife asked a fairly simple line of questioning. So you're going to dinner with sales reps for some company that are trying to get you to use a device during surgery? Well, they're mainly targeting my bosses, but I guess me as well, yeah. And they're paying for the meal and the drinks? Obviously, of course. And then tomorrow, they'll be in surgery with you, a part of the decision making? Naturally, yeah. You don't see anything wrong with this? That last question actually offended me. Everything about this interaction seems so natural to me because at the end of the day, it was the surgeon making all the real decisions, right? Fast forward 3 years. Now I'm that surgeon making all those real decisions. And it got icky. Now, I'm sure as patients or loved ones of patients in the audience, you must all be thinking, how the heck do we fit into this equation? What say do we have over how our surgeon chooses to treat the disease that lands us in the hospital and in these operating rooms? Stated plainly, you have all the say. Minimally invasive technology gives us options for how to treat and tackle disease. But there will always be a missing piece to this puzzle, the wants and desires of our patients. Now, if I'm guessing correctly, I'm sure many of you currently see big business, industry, and its salespeople as the villains of this story. I'd like to challenge that notion right now. What I ask you all to remember is that as a surgeon, it's my job to understand the human body, recognize when it's not working properly, and then know all the tools at my disposal to fix it. But remember, I'm not an engineer. When I'm orchestrating the chaos that is surgery, having a sales rep present that knows the ins and outs of their device, literally has seen it used thousands of times, is an invaluable resource to have at my disposal. Stated plainly, if myself or a loved one were having surgery and the surgeon knew what tool or device they were planning on using, I would expect that the sales rep be present for that surgery to ensure there was as much knowledge in that room as possible to secure a safe outcome. I haven't even begun to discuss the amount of money that big business and industry puts towards educating our future surgeons and interventionalists. Lest I forget to mention the amount of money they put towards medical research to ensure that we in this country are at the forefront of the medical technology race currently going on globally. So where does that leave us? And I ask the question because I don't think the call to action here is simple or straightforward. My thought was to leave you with one more story about a particularly memorable cup of coffee that will hopefully illustrate where I think this conversation needs to go about the dynamic relationship between business and medicine. Okay, I'm 3 months fresh from graduating surgical training. I get a call from a rural community hospital about a patient that has an aneurysm in their belly that has burst. The patient is not doing well. My brain goes on autopilot. I tell that hospital exactly what to do and have that patient flown to me within the hour. When the patient arrives, I meet them and their spouse on the helicopter pad and quickly explain that we have 2 options on how to proceed. Option 1, a maximally invasive surgery that will have at least a week's stay in the hospital, has a high chance of complication, but is ultimately a more durable surgery. Or option 2, a minimally invasive surgery with a much shorter length of stay in the hospital, a much lower risk of complication, but will require a lot more surveillance and touch-up surgeries to ensure its durability. The patient looks at his wife for a nanosecond and then stares me straight in the face and says, "Doc, I'm walking my daughter down the aisle in 3 weeks." Option 2. I go on autopilot. I call my sales rep and ask them to bring the exact stents we need because we don't keep all those sizes stocked in some black closet somewhere. In the operating room, I'm trying to keep my cool as I see pictures of blood everywhere except for where it's supposed to be. I put the device in place and I deploy it exactly the way the manufacturer says I'm supposed to. But something goes wrong. Stent does not deploy the way it's supposed to. The way it has the last 100 times I've used it. My eyes dart to my sales rep, who calmly and coolly says, "Doc, I've seen this happen twice before, and each time a specific maneuver fixed the problem." Recognizing I had milliseconds to make a decision, I trust my rep. I do exactly as they say, and the stent deploys perfectly. And now all the blood is exactly where it's supposed to be. Patient makes it off the operating room table and back to their room, probably never realizing just how close to death they actually came. So, to the patients or loved ones of patients in the audience, the next time you see your surgeon holding a cup of coffee, please don't take this talk to mean you should worry about where that coffee came from. My ask of you is transparency. Be transparent with your physicians and your surgeons about the needs and wants for your health and your body. Whether it's walking your daughter down the aisle in 3 weeks or running a marathon next year, when you're transparent about your desires for your health, it allows your surgeons and doctors to be good stewards of your care. And to my colleagues in medicine, our futures are forever entangled with that of business and technology. We simply have to realize there is no such thing as a free cup of coffee. But if we can keep our true north pointed towards patient-centered care, then perhaps we can ensure that we can enjoy innocent cups of coffee moving forward. Oh, and do you remember that sales rep who helped me save that patient's life that day in the operating room? Well, as soon as that case was over, I ran downstairs so I could buy them a cup of coffee.